to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azalina, I am Derek Cano. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Joe, as per usual, let us know what we are talking about today.
Derek and fans and of our audience out there, we are actually talking about the midseason NFL awards. And we have, it looks to be about 7 awards we're going to talk about. If we think of any more, we'll try to go fly by our seat of our pants, which should be interesting. And then I think we're going to delve into a little more, maybe about possibly what happened over the weekend, but more focused in the awards. And then later on, at the end of the show, we'll tell you what's coming up in our next couple shows, or I think we're both looking forward to those too. So, but NFL awards. So, Derek, let's get it going here. What are we talking about first here?
And before we get started, just a reminder to everyone that we are available on all streaming or all podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it. We're probably on your podcast platforms. Go out there and take a listen if you're listening to this on Facebook. If you are listening on the podcast platforms, be sure to check out our Facebook page. As always, send us an email. We're happy to take any questions, or we want to make this a little more interactive. So send us an email, Derek, timeout, Derek and Joe at gmail.com. We'll be happy to answer your questions moving forward. Give us a like, follow us on Facebook, timeout, Derek and Joe. So as Joe mentioned, we will start with the MVP race in the NFL. So a lot has changed, obviously, since the beginning of the season when we made our preseason awards. We may hint to what we did earlier in the season. I believe that may have been around episode 4. You can go back and check that out to see how badly we're doing. But we may reference that here in some of these. So MVP, Joe, mid-season now that we're about halfway through, who do you have as winning the MVP, and maybe compare to where you had in the beginning of the season?
This was my this was my hardest pick, just so everybody can maybe sympathize with me out there. If you follow the NFL, it's so hard to pick who maybe the best player is, but I am going to stick very close to what I said in the beginning of the season, and that was the quarterback from the Baltimore Ravens, the double threat, the former Heisman Trophy winner out of Louisville, Lamar Jackson. Because I just think he has the weapons in Willie Snead. He has a good tight end in Mark Andrews. Maybe they need one more guy to really solidify the attack, but they run the ball with 3 running backs and Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. They all make him look really good. If the defense can play up the standards and John Harbaugh, unlike his brother Jim in college, can coach, as good as he can. No, I didn't mean to take a shot at Jim. I just wanted to just throw it out there about John. But anyway, yeah, Derek, long story short, I have Lamar Jackson as my MVP. I'm sticking with the Baltimore Ravens quarterback.
Now, they didn't – a lot of people may have said that they should have gone out and gotten a receiver for him. That there's a lot on his shoulders, it seems like. Big game, right? I think that's we talked about it last week with Mike about big game against the Steelers coming up, right? So
huge game on Thanksgiving night, right? Yeah, and you're a great point though about the receiver. Snead's okay. Miles Boykin from Notre Dame is okay. Mark Andrews is okay. What do you do? Maybe a Brandon Cooks next year. Maybe a Fuller. Like, do you get a really good speed guy? I don't know if there's a number one out there. DeAndre Hopkins is not going anywhere, I don't think. We'll get to him later. But just saying, I mean, what do you do if you're Baltimore? Do you have suggestions for the Ravens? Do you get one more guy in there for Jackson?
I think actually Marquise Brown's another one who's
I forgot Hollywood Brown.
A good receiver there, but I think they need more possession guys. That's probably why you saw Mark Andrews really step up last year, is because he was more a possession guy. And I wonder, I mean, I can't say I follow it close enough to know if they're kind of taking him out of the game in the middle of the field and making Jackson make more throws and run the ball. And I'd be interested to see if he can get back on that MVP level. Or maybe it's the Madden curse, Joe.
He is on
Maybe is the
Madden.
Madden curse back.
Do you
So
think Julio Jones is a fit there? Maybe a guy like that, a good veteran. Like, is that a name that's
perhaps,
realistic?
yeah. There's and so yeah. So I think it needs to be someone possession, who he can dump it to, who's not a Mark Ingram.
Right, right.
So
Somebody they
it'll
need
be
maybe
interesting.
blood. Yeah, they definitely. Well, Derek, who do you have for your MVP, my friend?
For those who don't recall, I ended up going with Dak Prescott in the beginning of the season. Hey, I think he was playing very well, but unfortunately he went down with an injury and he's no longer playing. So I am going to go with who my number 2 was. And I talked about them unleashing him. I went with Russell Wilson. He did not play well this past week against the LA Rams, who I will say I think they are the number 2 total defense in the NFL. So
We're not at home.
they kind of bottled him down, but he has thrown for 28 touchdowns. There is a nice little stretch here where he plays the Eagles, the Giants, the Jets, the Washington
Clean up,
football
Russell.
team.
Clean up,
So
Russell.
I like to think that he's going to, especially if Carson stays out. Carson hasn't been healthy for the past few weeks.
That's Hyde.
Neither is Hyde. That's correct.
They're
So
missing everybody in the run game.
they're going to continue to throw it to Metcalf and Lockett. So great game this weekend, and what could tip the favors to who is my offensive player pick. They do play Arizona this week, so my offensive player pick of the year is right now Kyler Murray. 27 touchdowns, 600 rushing yards right now. He's looking like last year. I mean, not to the extent rushing wise, but to the extent last year's Lamar Jackson. Now, the reason I did not put him as my MVP is I really don't think that they're going to do as well as the Seahawks finish. I'm not even sure if they're going to make the playoffs. They do have 2 very tough games against that same Rams defense that shut down Wilson. So I'd be interested to see how he plays. And of course, there was this weekend's game against the Buffalo Bills, and what a Hail Mary pass that was. I don't know if you have anyone for the Cardinals or anyone for the offensive player, but that was a great game, great catch. So I have Kyler Murray. We'll see. We'll see if he keeps up the pace. But where do you have for offensive player?
It's funny. I actually have very similar to you. I actually have Russell Wilson. And I did it because I believe that you need a very strong quarterback in the NFL. If you go back for numbers of years, it's always been guys like Montana and Montana and Steve Young and Brett Favre and Troy Aikman, and a lot more guys to name. But Russell Wilson, to me, is the heartbeat of the Seattle Seahawks. They lose Chris Carson. They've lost him for a couple weeks now. They lost Carlos Hyde. They're playing with a guy named DJ Dallas, and I don't even know where he's from, and I'm sure it's not in Dallas. So, no, but he's a multiple threat, arm and legs. He does both. He's just great offense with him. You said Lockett and Metcalf. We think of those guys. What about Greg Olsen? He's catching the ball. They have David Moore. He's also catching the ball. So their defense isn't very good. They have certain guys that play well, but their schedule does line up, like you said, and I think he can be for both of these awards, to be honest, the MVP and Offensive Player of the Award. He'll be right there in the end. And I think he's going to be on the field in the NFC Championship game. So I have Russell Wilson as my Offensive Player of the Year.
Okay.
So Derek?
Defensive player, something, I don't know how much defense we pay attention to. What do you think about defense? Anyone that has stuck out to you?
Well, I'm going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're 8-0. And the one reason they're 8-0 is their defense. And I'm going to go with the name that a lot of people know, but it's the younger brother of J.J. Watt. It's T.J. Watt. And I did a little research. He was the AFC Defensive Player of the Month. That's tough to do in the AFC. You're playing with some really good players there. He's always around the ball, and he is the younger brother of great star J.J. Watt. Now, you can name a lot of guys here, but to me, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense would not be what it is right now and what it has been in the last couple of years without this guy on the side of the ball. So TJ Watt is my defensive player of the year.
Well, and it was very close. I think TJ Watt is up there too. But I went with another guy in the same division. I went with Myles Garrett, who I think the only reason I didn't take Watt is because there's so much else there defensively, including one Fitzpatrick, who you mentioned a few weeks ago as to why the Dolphins gave him up. Still don't know why, but there's a lot there. And now Myles Garrett is by half a sack. He's leading in sacks in the NFL, most forced fumbles with 4, tied for 4th in tackles for loss behind one TJ Watt. But I think it's more that there's not a lot there on the defensive side for the Cleveland Browns. We've mentioned a lot their offense, but I'm starting to think they're rallying around now. Deshaun Watson and the Texans are not, the juggernauts offensively that they were over the past few years, but they shut them down to 7 points, which is something that's very hard to do in the NFL these days. So, and maybe, they may struggle with if they play some games against Pittsburgh and Baltimore down the line here. But hey, I went with Myles Garrett, the first round pick, starting to show it. So I guess we'll see where where that lands. If interesting, neither of us said Aaron Donald, who has been the dominant defensive force for the past few years. So we may both eat our words if Aaron Donald ends up being the defensive player.
True.
So what's our next one there, Joe?
Well, we are going to go to the defensive rookie of the year. And I didn't really have a hard time with this because I followed him a little bit in his college game. And of course, he's a rookie, so he's young. The 28th overall pick in the NFL draft this past season was an inside linebacker from the University of LSU. And he's on the Baltimore Ravens, and that's Patrick Queen. That guy hits hard, and he hits a lot. Like, he's a big tackler. And that's basically what I have, that he's a hard hitter, and he's just good. And the Ravens are, again, kind of like TJ Watt. They're not really the same team without a guy like Patrick Queen. So, and I don't know a lot more about the Ravens defense, so I'm not going to BS our audience or you. So I'm just going to leave it there and say my defensive rookie of the year is Patrick Queen.
Well, I went with Antoine Winfield Jr., the son of obviously Antoine Winfield, who played several years in the NFL. So he was picked 45th overall by the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's apparently all over the field. A lot of tackles for 44 tackles, which is a lot for a cornerback because since they play one side of the field. So that's a lot of tackles in terms of cornerback, 2 sacks, an interception. But like I said, supposedly he's always around the ball. Giants fans may know him from, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, week 8, where they played the Buccaneers, and he, whether it was pass interference or not, made the game-saving play to keep the Giants from winning that game, and that was Antoine Winfield Jr. So he's what I have for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Again, not a lot of, we don't know a ton about defensive players, but he's one that seemed just who stood out for me. Um, we'll jump right over then to offensive rookie of the year. What do you have there, Joe? Any names that, I mean, obviously there's a couple names that were taken high in the draft. Who do you have there?
The offensive rookie of the year is another quarterback. This is a theme with me, apparently. I actually have former Heisman Trophy winner from the University of LSU, Mr. Joe Burrow. And I've been very impressed with him since I saw him play against the Eagles. I think he's been able to find receivers like Tyler Boyd, who wasn't a big standout at Pittsburgh. He's looking at guys like T. Higgins, who's a rookie like himself. He's having a good year. And with I was gonna say AJ Brown, but that's not correct. There's another receiver, AJ Green. Thank you. Is another guy that he's been able to go to too. So he's multiple receivers, and if Joe Mixon can run the ball a little better, he might be a little more pressure off of him. I like him. He's poised. He's really good. I wanted to put Tua in there, but I don't think 3 games is enough. And Burrow's played the whole year, so I go with the kid from Cincinnati, Joe Burrow.
Very interesting, Joe. You mentioned 2 quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, neither of which is my pick. I went with Justin Herbert out of for the Chargers.
I love it.
I like what Burrow has done. I don't love what he's done. People said he could have went into that offense and completely just revitalized them. Tyler Boyd is a very good slot receiver. AJ Green's kind of disappeared, but he does have Mixon, though he's gotten hurt. And Giovanni Bernard, he has the weapons. Herbert does not really have many weapons out there for the Chargers. He's 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was taken the 3rd quarterback, 6th overall in the draft. But you think about them, yeah, Keenan Allen's been around there for a long time. Mike Williams from Clemson that hasn't really stepped in as the number 2 receiver. Eckler's been hurt a lot this year, so there's not really a ton there. So I like what Herbert's done. They haven't been winning, but I like what he's done so far, and I'm interested to see. I don't like how he took over the job for Tyrod Taylor with supposedly, his injuries that were caused by doctors or whatever, and then he took over and never looked back. But another name I'll throw out there, James Robinson, the running back from the Jaguars, undrafted. He has over 900 total yards right now. I think he's the only one really touching the ball out of the backfield for them, so maybe a little by default. And they are 1-8, 1-7, so they're kind of struggling. But just a name I want to throw out there. So maybe look for him in the future. They pushed out Leonard Fournette, who's not really doing a ton for the Bucks. So obviously maybe they liked this James Robinson guy. So another one who's playing very well. What do we have next here? We have next is the coach of the year, which could be a little interesting from where we had in the beginning of the year. Has that changed halfway through the season for you?
Yeah, I don't I think I had Mr. Harbaugh there, but I don't think the Ravens have done enough to grant that he could be the coach of the year. Derek, when you're playing a professional sport and you are on fire like this team is, I feel like there's no way you can't go here. The only hiccup they've had is a real close game with Baltimore and a very, very, very heart-stopping game against the Dallas Cowboys. But the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin, who's won before, Big Ben's won 2 Super Bowls, this team knows how to win. So now they're getting in guys like Claypool and James Conner's getting older. They just seem – and Deontay Johnson's come out of nowhere. Like, this is kind of what a team does, and the defense is so good. This team, and I will get laughed at. This will be a laughing. This will be a joke now between my brother, me, and you, going forward. But this team can beat the Chiefs, Derek. Maybe that's why I didn't include him in the top 5. I just think Mike Tomlin's done enough. His team's done enough, and they're going to lose a game here or there probably, but they're going to be in I think a top 3 seed in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, obviously undefeated, and it's all about winning, right? So, like you said it, the defense is playing very well. They're not turning the ball over. Ben is doing very well. They're not running the ball as well as I think they would like to. Connor's kind of been a little quiet, but that would be my pick too, probably. But hey, I stuck with my original pick, which was actually Bruce Arians out for Tampa Bay. They're starting to get a little hot, and their defense is top 3 in the NFL. Offense is top 14, but I will say bringing in Antonio Brown now, they're looking very good offensively. You kind of saw it. They put up 40-some against the Panthers this weekend, but now with Antonio Brown, and not to mention Chris Godwin and Evans is maybe, like the third option on that team. Probably not behind Antonio Brown. Gronk. They haven't even used Fournette. Ronald Jones III is very good. I think Tomlin's probably going to get it, considering even if they keep winning, it's definitely going to go towards him. So they're 9-0 now. They play the Jaguars. They play the Ravens, the Washington football team. Tough game against the Bills. Bengals. Tough game against the Colts. That's another one. Maybe the Colts should get the coach of the year, because there's another defense that's dominating. But so I stuck with mine with Bruce Arians. So we'll see where that goes. And maybe you go the same way here. What about comeback player of the year? I know I mentioned Cam Newton in the beginning of the season. I'm going to go away from that. But what do you have for comeback?
When I saw this, I flashed back to just hearing about when you think about a comeback player of the year. But this guy should be comeback player of the century. We're talking about a guy that has 17, I think it was, surgeries, out 21 months. And because the Washington football team had Dwayne Haskins, who's become a nightmare, he just can't do it. And then Kyle Allen gets hurt because of the terrible play that was. Alex Smith is my comeback player of the year. And to me, I don't know if there's much argument to it. He's exactly when you say you don't give up on things, you don't give up in your life, because that man went through, and he's got kids, he's got a beautiful wife. He's gone through so much in his life, and he is still a quarterback to this day. That's amazing to me. A lot of people remember him as if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a quarterback at Fresno State at one time.
Utah.
Utah. I had the right division. I was close.
Out there somewhere.
I was so close. All right. Thank you for correcting me. But no, he is, it's just amazing. 2020 has brought us a lot of heartache. It's brought us a lot of what ifs and all this COVID situation we live in right now. But Alex Smith is an inspiration to many people. And I think that this has just kind of really put a light bulb in my head. Whatever you go through in life, sometimes you just have to keep going. You have to, go forward with it, because you just don't know. And this guy is just a credit to that. So Alex Smith, he's my comeback player of the year, and it's really not even close for me.
That's very well said. And like you said, especially with everything going on, all the negativity going on right now, someone who was actually, they said, on the verge of could potentially have died to everything that was going wrong when he broke his leg at Washington, to come back, even have the courage to come back and play the game you love and build your way all the way back. And hey, now he's starting again. And I'm not so sure that Dwayne Haskins is their guy there. They want to just slow it down on him, but he threw for almost 400 yards this past weekend. What a credit to him for coming back, Alex Smith. That a great story, great story. And I've even heard people saying maybe they should name the the comeback player of the year after him when he inevitably retires or whatnot.
Could
But
be. Could
um,
be.
I'll just
The
throw another
powerful.
name out that I kind of hinted at. Big Ben is playing amazing. Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh and leading them again, not turning the ball over. 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. They're undefeated. A full year out after his knee injury, and they just aren't the same team without him. They just seem to be a mediocre team when he's not there, and they just really seems to get going when Ben is there. Ultimately, I think it should go to Alex Smith because you can't. That's the definition of a comeback, and it's pretty amazing to see. Um, well, we got plenty of time here, Joe. So why don't we just get started? We're gonna go into talking about the current NFL standings, and we're just gonna name a team in each division who maybe compared to what we had beginning of the year. So this is kind of looking back at our previous episode and seeing, who's someone who's surprised us, who's someone who we may see uh, really taking a step up towards the end of the year. But we're going to start in the AFC East, and then we'll build our way down. AFC East is currently led by the Buffalo Bills at 7-3. Next is the Miami Dolphins at 6-3, New England Patriots at 4-5, and the New York Jets at 0-9. Who's someone you want to talk about in there, Joe, and maybe surprising you or whatever, wherever you want to take it?
Well, I mean, the Jets are just a disaster. But let's point out something though.
We saw that coming.
I know, but Derek, they're 0-9. Like, can they win a game, Derek? They could have beat the Patriots. I mean, come on. No, listen. I think you got to be fair and say we both didn't really see the Bills. I mean, I know the Bills like at the wild card round, but like the Bills are 7-3. Like, if they won the game the other night, they're 8-2. So, or not 8-2, 7-2. Yeah, 7-2, whatever it would have been. But,
8-2, yeah, they would have been.
Yeah, 8-2. That sounds like a lot, but it's right. So Josh Allen's for real. Like, if people don't out there, just mark it down next year, I might get him in one of my leagues. Like, come on. Like, the guy's unbelievable right now. That pass he threw to John Brown, I think, or even Diggs. I'll tell you about another thing. If they get one more weapon, forget about it, because they all have limited weapons right now. Like, just think about one more receiver. One more good receiver. Yeah. I don't know. The Bills are impressing me. And, I think you're going to have to pony up pretty soon and tell your girlfriend, Lindsay, that, hey, the Bills are an impressive football team. So, and the Dolphins, they really are playing really well right now. We'll see what they can do in the next couple games, though.
First off, I will say, if we have any New England Patriots fans out there, they are really going to be angry about you saying that the Jets couldn't even beat the Patriots. The Patriots have been winning this division for years now, but the Patriots definitely seem like the third best team, unfortunately. And I had them winning the division. I don't really see it anymore. Every facet, they are not as good. Maybe you could make a case that they're better than the Dolphins, but I don't see it better than the Bills. Cam has not been great. He only has 3 touchdown passes. He has quite a few rushing touchdowns, but only 3 touchdown passes.
Only 4 wins.
The Dolphins are who have stood out to me. Their defense is very good. This is definitely faster than their timetable thought. They are playing very good football, not turning the ball over. Tua looks great out there. I mean, you'd like to see him throw for maybe some more yards, but you don't really need to if they're winning games.
Right.
Currently on a 5-game win streak. They started 1-3, so great, looking great for the Dolphins. I don't love the Bills. I don't love their defense. I think their defense can definitely be beaten up. We'll see where they go. They have some tough matchups going forward, but there should be some good games with between the Dolphins, Patriots, and the Bills going down the rest of the schedule here. So be interested to see where that goes. You want to run through the AFC North, then, Joe?
Sure. We start up at the top with the Steelers at 9-0, and there's not much else you can say about them. The Baltimore Ravens are 6-3. And the one thing I'll say about Baltimore, they got to do better in the conference. They're only 4-3 in the conference, so that might hurt them going forward. Cleveland Browns are 6-3, but I'd watch out for them. They got a big game with the Eagles on Sunday. That's going to be interesting. 4-1 at home, though, so that doesn't bode well for the Eagles. And the Cincinnati Bengals are 2-6. So, Derek, why don't you start with these 6-3 teams? Why don't you tell me who you think with Baltimore and Cleveland? Do you think one of those teams are going to kind of separate themselves?
The Browns really seem to have found their identity, huh? And it's run the ball. They finally have Nick Chubb back. They obviously have Kareem Hunt there. They lost Odell Beckham, so maybe that's pushing them more towards running the ball. And Baker Mayfield really being more of a game manager almost. Call me crazy, but I think the Browns may finish with a better record than the Ravens. I don't like what I'm seeing out of Lamar Jackson this year. They have a really tough schedule coming up here. They have the Titans and then at the Steelers. Then they go to the Cowboys and then at the Browns again. Tough schedule. I think the Browns could overtake them and take a division wild card spot. Again, yet like you said, nothing to see for the Steelers. They've been dominating, but and then the Bengals, not quite their time yet, but they'll Joe Burrow will lead them to some victories. But hey, that's a great division. You may see 3 teams out of it. 3 of the 7 may be out of the North.
I agree.
AFC South.
Yep.
Indianapolis Colts 6-3, Titans 6-3, Texans 2-7, Jaguars 1-8. So kind of a large separation there between.
There's a line.
Very distinct line. So, which one do you want to talk about? You want to go positive? You want to go negative?
Let's go positive because those 2 teams are pretty good. And I have to say, I have the Titans at 13 wins. I don't think they're going to get to 13 wins. They could, but it'll be pretty interesting. I still don't believe in Ryan Tannehill, but he's good enough, I think, right? I don't know if it's because he was a Dolphin and I really thought he was terrible, but different place, I can't say enough good things about Derrick Henry. He's just such a good running back. Even on a bad game, he's still good. Like, that's the thing. He's still good. He still gets yards. Their defense, I don't know much about. I'll be honest. The Indianapolis Colts, though, let's go there. Their defense is really good. And if Philip Rivers can play somewhat better, I know he's had a good year, but he hasn't had a great year. He hasn't had the Roethlisberger year. He hasn't had a Wilson year. They need more from probably their running game and Nyheim Hines and the rookie Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin. I know you know about him from the Big Ten, right? But what about Pascal? What about this Michael Pittman from USC? Some of these guys need to start stepping up more because Rivers doesn't have a number one option. Talk about not having a number one option. T.Y. Hilton's okay, but he's just fast. He's not that big time receiver. So Indianapolis, Tennessee, they'll be like scary in the playoffs, but I don't know if either of them makes a run.
Just interested. Who do you have taking the division? Who do you think?
Oh boy.
I'll put you on the spot.
Wow. I mean, that's tough because
Now, obviously, they just played on Thursday, and the Colts went to Tennessee and beat them.
got a big win, and I picked Tennessee actually in that game. You know what? The Colts really are interesting, but their defense has to play a good game. They can't not play a good game because I don't know if the offense is that good,
right,
unless the running game helps out Rivers. I'm still taking Tennessee. I think Tennessee's a better football team.
Whew.
That's tough,
and
Derek.
it's weird. It's weird to say when they just the Colts just beat the Titans.
I know,
and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. They are one of the least sexy teams in the NFL. They don't. T.Y. Hilton under Andrew Luck a few years ago was one of the best receivers in the league, and he is basically disappeared in this offense. You mentioned Pittman, very good young receiver, Pascal, and they don't really do anything passing the ball. They maybe, I would imagine you would probably see them towards the bottom of the league in terms of passing. Rushing is not sexy at all. Jonathan Taylor has looked good in spurts, but Naheem Hines, Wilkins is there as well. For some reason, I see them kind of taking a little bit of a dive. They're 6-3. I see them maybe going 9-7, maybe 10-6, but. They do have a home game to the Titans, and then they have a lot of away games. Well, they actually play the Packers, which is probably something I should mention is a tough game. But at the Texans, at the Raiders, at the Steelers, that's a tough schedule. I think I agree. I think the Titans take it. And, well, we'll see where the Texans and the Jaguars go from here because they're kind of way behind in terms of playing with those two in the division. Next up, we have the AFC West, which again is kind of two sides. There's a straight line there. You have the Kansas City Chiefs at 8-1, Las Vegas Raiders in their first season in Las Vegas at 6-3, Denver Broncos 3-6, LA Chargers 2-7. Joe, I think we can say that the Chiefs seem to be the class of the division, but you did have in the beginning of the year the Las Vegas Raiders as one of your sleeper teams to watch. They're definitely coming to play, and they're 6-3, maybe beating up on the Broncos and the Chargers, but 6 wins and maybe going towards the playoffs.
All right. So first of all, Las Vegas is interesting, but I don't believe in Derek Carr. I mean, again, Josh Jacobs is going to have to have a big second half. The defense is going to have to play really well. I mean, yeah, you can flip the ball out to Henry Ruggs, or you can throw the ball to Hunter Renfrow, and they're two really good receivers out of Clemson in Renfrow and Ruggs out of Alabama. They have pedigree. We know that. But you need other guys. How about the tight end, right? He needs to have a big second half. Carr can't do it himself. The defense, I'm sure, will be able to handle some of the load. But then you look at Kansas City. I mean, come on. They have everything. And I didn't have them in my top 5. But, yeah, they have everything, Patrick Mahomes and company. Like, the Chiefs are going to win the division. I think the Raiders might get a wild card, but I still think, and like you said, Denver and LA. I mean, watch out, though. The Chargers are going to be really good. They're really a young team, and they're going to be fine. But Denver's probably the team to really worry about, right? I mean, they have nothing. I don't know what they're going to do. They really don't have a lot. Melvin Gordon is exciting, but Drew Lock, are we serious right now? So anyway, yeah, the Chiefs take it, and I think they take it easily.
The the Broncos and Gordon definitely seems to be at the end of his career, which 30 years old. Yeah, he's at the end of his career. But they don't look great. There definitely seems to be another line in the divisions here. The Chargers don't quite have enough. I mean, you get excited with people like Bosa on the defensive side, and Austin Eckler is a very good running back. But
Hunter Henry, I
and
like.
like I mentioned, Hunter Henry, good tight end. And then Justin Herbert's played great, but uh, and the Chiefs are the class. They're going to win the division. They have a very weak strength of schedule the rest of the way. Uh, the Raiders, I'm kind of interested to see. They have some tough games. You mentioned in the beginning of the year, Tom Gruden or John Gruden is not coming back unless he likes what he sees. Uh, I'd be interested what his real thoughts are on Derek Carr, because Derek Carr is, you said, he's not that great of a quarterback. And I think that may keep them from going ultimately further. I think they do make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll beat any of the top teams. But they do have they play the Chiefs coming up here. They play the Colts. They play the Dolphins at Denver. So you never know. But I think they make the playoffs. Josh Jacobs, very good running back. Darren Waller, very good tight end. So, um, yeah, definitely a split there. Um, which I guess brings us to our favorite division. Do you want to talk about that one, Joe?
This is this is unbelievable. Or seeing this year from the NFC East. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-5-1 and in first place. The New York Giants are 3-7, and the Washington football team is 2-7, and the Dallas Cowboys are also 2-7. Derek, there's no split here to per se, but why don't we take
Because they're all on the
why,
bottom of the split.
right? Why don't we just go for Washington, New York? Because we do talk about Philly a lot, and I don't think there's much else to talk about other than Carson Wentz can't throw the ball away, and he also takes a pounding every game. The one thing I do want to mention though is if Frank Reich is doing so good in Indianapolis, and Philip Rivers decides to retire after this season, do you see Carson Wentz going to Indianapolis? That's just food for thought. Like, because loves Frank Reich, and it's kind of on topic. I'm just throwing it out there. It might happen. My brother actually posed that question to me. I said, why not? I mean, he's not winning a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. It's not happening, Lindsay. With sister Lindsay there. It's not happening.
I guess Nick Foles playing bad in Chicago kind of makes them feel a little bit better. But I always wonder if when they're going to get Hurts more into that offense. He just
that's the other point. Stop throwing him on the field for 2 or 3 plays and handing the ball off.
Yeah.
Like, and Wentz is over to the right side of the formation. I'm like, what are they doing? Mind-boggling.
And I never liked it. But and you mentioned let's talk more about the other team. I'm just out of curiosity. I'm sure we have a lot of Eagles, a lot of Giants, probably a lot of Cowboys fans, maybe one Washington Redskins fan. So I figure we'll run through. We're going to really delve into this division and see who we think is going to win this division.
Oh boy!
Let's start with the Giants. They are currently 3-7. Daniel Jones is the leading rusher. They have, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
He's a quarterback.
Where do we have them finishing? 3-7 at the Bengals next week.
That could be a win, though. That could be. Their receivers are playing well. Sterling Shepard and Slayton. I mean, and Goldman actually looks like he can run the ball all of a sudden. I don't know. I think they might be able to beat the Bengals.
You think they will?
I'm not going to say it.
We'll give them 4. At the Seahawks.
Loss.
Home to the Cardinals. Probably a
loss.
Home to the Browns.
Probably a
probably a
loss.
loss. At the Ravens,
Oh, absolutely
probably
a loss.
And home to the Cowboys.
That's a
Okay,
win.
we'll
I'll give
give
him a
them a
win
win
there.
there.
Give him a win there.
So Giants, 5 wins. And hey, I'd be I, and maybe if Barkley were there, it would make a little bit more of a difference, but it's hard to they just don't have enough talent on the offensive side to really they kind of built around Barkley. And
Oh
if you
yeah,
don't
absolutely.
have
Just
a
on the
running
line.
back there to dominate, it's tough.
Well, yeah.
Moving to the Eagles,
Oh boy.
see if they get above 5 wins. So they're currently 3-5-1. This week they are at Cleveland.
I'm so torn on this game. I don't know. Can they, I mean the Browns aren't doing great. They scored 10 points last week. Can the Eagles score? Give the ball to Miles Sanders 40 times instead of Carson Wentz stepping back and throwing 40 times. I don't know. Push. Like, I don't know.
Tie, second tie. I think the Browns are really finding their niche here and running the ball, and they're just not going to give the other team the ball.
That happens. Eagles are in
Now,
trouble.
I think that's a loss.
Okay.
Home to
Fair.
Seattle, I don't
Loss.
think they win that game.
No.
At Green Bay,
All right, now there.
I don't
See
think
now that one though we have to remember. If you give the ball to Miles Sanders, look what Dalvin Cook did to them.
running back is the defensive the linebackers and our rush defense.
I'm just saying. I know you're a Packers fan, but I'm just saying. I think the Eagles will need that game. They'll need that game. If they don't beat the Browns, Derek, they'll need it's going to be a necessity. But you know what? Let's give them a loss. What the heck?
home
Carson.
to the Saints. Now we talked off air about
Brees.
the Drew Brees injury, and he's
Very
going to be out
sad.
for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
That'll be 4 weeks before,
He'll be
so
back.
he may
Apparently
very well be back.
Could be back. I'm going to say the Saints beat him. It's not looking good for
At the Cardinals.
How? I can't.
Yeah,
Houdini.
I don't think so.
Houdini, I mean, Russell, Kyler Murray.
At the Cowboys, that's going to be a big game.
They'll win that game. I mean, do they have a chance? Do they have a chance in a wild card right now?
Home to Washington is their last game.
They're home. I mean, that's a revenge game.
I'd have to give them a. So we're probably going to say around 6 wins. It seems like for the Eagles, could be it. You mentioned Miles Sanders, and I think they really have to lean more on the rushing game.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing. You
to almost take the ball.
You can't throw the ball 3rd and 1 every play, like 3rd and 1 all the time. You gotta run the ball. Give the ball to Clement. He's like 300, like 240. Like give him the ball.
Yeah.
How
about Washington? We can run through them real quick now with maybe Alex Smith at their quarterback position. Yeah. So one of those teams must play the Bengals the following week, but the Bengals, they play at home. Actually,
that could be a win.
I think they might win that game.
That could be a win. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, right? The running backs.
So we'll give them a win there. That'll put them at 3-7. At Dallas, simply because it's at Dallas, I guess I'll say Dallas wins that.
Yeah, whatever his name is, the quarterback.
At Pittsburgh, no thank you. At San Francisco, that's up in the air. I would still probably say a loss.
Yeah, who's healthy?
is
Kittle healthy? Is Garoppolo healthy?
Home to the Seahawks, probably a loss. Home to the Panthers, I like to think they could win that game.
Yeah, that depends on the receivers for Carolina, I think. Yeah, that's
so
winnable.
I'll give them 4. And then at the Eagles, we said that would be an Eagles win. So that's 4 wins. So currently we have the Giants finishing with 5 wins, the Eagles with 6 wins, and the Washington football team with 4. I'd be interested. They're another team that maybe if they go towards the run game with Gibson is a very good young running back who may, if he gets on a hot streak, get up for that offensive rookie of the year that we mentioned earlier in the episode. But last team is the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh boy.
6 is the number to beat. They're 2-7. Can they do it? Let's see. At Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are very hot right now.
Yeah, they are. Dalvin Cook's a beast.
Yeah.
And they don't give the ball to Elliott. They don't give the ball to Elliott, Derek.
Home to Washington. We gave them a win.
Yeah.
At Baltimore. I don't think so.
No way.
At Cincinnati. Maybe a homecoming game for Andy Dalton if he's back.
He's back?
He's practicing, so
he might get hurt in the Ravens game, though.
Well, yeah, he might not make it there.
Okay, homecoming for Andy Dalton. That's true. I didn't think about that.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
Me either.
These are the three big ones. You have home to the Niners, home to the Eagles, and at the Giants.
They can win. They can win two of those. I just don't know if they're going to beat the Niners.
It's tough. I think it could.
Eagles late in the year, man.
I think it could come. You never know with the NFC East. I think it could ultimately come down to that. That would be week 16 game, home to the Eagles. Is Andy Dalton healthy? Do they give the ball to Elliott?
Does Miles Sanders get the ball?
They really need. I have to stick with my Cowboys, and I gotta pick. I had them in the beginning of the year. I gotta go with the Cowboys, and hope that when Dalton comes back, they can get the ball out to Cooper, get it out to CeeDee Lamb, who has looked really good at times in the year. Get Elliott going, and maybe at 6-10.
I think the Giants somehow get the receivers really going, and I think they win one or two more of those games than we thought. And I'm going to go with the Giants for argument's sake.
You think the Giants?
I do. I just somehow feel like they're going to do it for Barkley in the end. They're going to do it for Barkley.
Their defenses look pretty good.
Daniel Jones also looked pretty good, actually, at times. He's very scary to watch, though. I have to tell you, the Eagles' offense reminds me, because you get excited, and you get excited for game day, and you're watching the game, not me personally, but Eagles fans. They remind me of the Phillies bullpen, the letdown of 2020, the Phillies bullpen. That's what it reminds me of.
Before we get going, I will say, and I know this has kind of been talked about, and maybe we'll end up talking about it at the end of the season after the playoffs get picked, but do you think they need to stay with the top 4 division winners get a home game, or do you think that should be ultimately changed and maybe go by record in a row, in which we would definitely not see the Eagles get a home game? They would, or whoever, or the Giants or Cowboys.
Nobody in the NFC East deserves a home game. They don't deserve a home game. In fact, nobody that has 6 wins in a season deserves a home game. But let
alone a playoff game.
Right. Yeah, let alone a playoff spot. So no, I like it the way it is. Just keep it the way it is. Please. The baseball's changing too much. I can't handle all this change, Derek.
And I don't think they do. These are very abnormal times that it does not happen very often. That these the last one I can really think of is when I think the Seahawks were maybe 500 or a game under 500, and the Saints went there, and Marshawn Lynch went beast mode and ended up beating the Saints at home. So and you never know what could happen when you play a home game. So it'll be interesting to see how that NFC East.
Well, hopefully all the NFC East fans love that segment.
Yeah, well,
shout out to all of you.
I figure not there. We don't have a ton of NFC South fans out there, so we can move on a little quicker. But NFC North is first. Green Bay Packers 7-2, Bears 5-5, Vikings 4-5, Lions 4-5. Teams are kind of going in opposite directions in this division. The Vikings, Dalvin Cook we mentioned him last week, gotten really hot, and they're all of a sudden on a 3-game win streak. whereas the Bears started off 5-1 and are now on a 4-game losing streak. Foles looks like he got injured. Not sure if he's going to play this coming week. They may need to go back to my boy Mitch Trubisky. What do you take out of this division?
Well, the Green Bay Packers are the class right now, and it's because of Aaron Rodgers. I just thought of something. I just want to throw this in real quick. Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger. What a Super Bowl that would be. Two great quarterbacks.
We already had one.
Packers Steelers.
They played each other earlier.
But Derek, I want to see it again. Okay. So anyway.
Yeah, I would too.
So here's my thing. The Packers defense isn't good against the run. And that's why I said about a Miles Sanders, a Dalvin Cook, a Derrick Henry, whatever matchup you get. They're not good against the run. If they continue, though, to be okay against the pass and home games they win, I don't see the Bears catching them, right? That's number one. Number two is when they get in the playoffs, they're going to be able to do damage because, well, Devontae Adams is probably the second best receiver in football right now. And that's only because I put DeAndre Hopkins probably because of the other day. To make a catch like that, you got to give him a lot of credit. But no, the Vikings and Lions are what they are. I still like Matt Stafford a lot. I wish he'd be somewhere else. Listen, Kirk Cousins is awful to watch. I watched like 20 minutes of that game last night, and I wanted to poke my eyes out because Kirk Cousins throws the ball to nobody sometimes. I don't even know where he's throwing the ball. It's like, my gosh, stop throwing the ball to nowhere. But yeah, I just, that's my take. The Packers are going to win the division easily, and if they get hot at the right time, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them playing in February.
I agree, and I'm not going to really talk about the Packers. I think that they're going to make the playoffs, win the division relatively easily with 11 or 12 wins probably. But and I said when they were 5-1, I really saw the Bears coming back to earth a little bit, and they have. I truly think they may continue to keep struggling. They may only end up with 6 wins or so, especially if Foles is out, although Foles has not been winning games for them.
No.
So maybe they do want to go back to Trubisky, but I'd be interested to see. Now, obviously, there's not going to be a second team from the East. I'm sure the South kind of has one a wild card set, whether it's the Saints or the Bucks. I'm not sure about the West. They may beat up on each other. Can the Lions or the Vikings step up and win a couple games in a row and maybe steal a wild card spot?
Probably
you know
not.
Where I'm going, Joe. I think it's going to be the Detroit Lions.
Go to the Lions. I knew you were going to the Lions.
Let's listen to the schedule here.
All right.
At the Panthers next week, and no Teddy Bridgewater maybe in that game. Home to the Texans, who are not playing well. The Bears at the Bears, they're not playing well.
It's a favorable schedule. Yeah, looking at that. Yeah.
Packers, Titans, Buccaneers, okay. And it may come down to that last game where they play at home against the Vikings. And if they can win that, they may come out with the 7th slot.
Derek, did you just say early, just like a minute ago or 2 minutes ago, that you don't think there's going to be 2 teams from the East? If there's 2 teams from the East in the playoffs from the NFC, I'm never watching football again.
That was more sarcasm. Yeah.
I know, I figured. So anyway, that was the North is pretty much locked up, I think. But you're right. The Lions or the Vikings can push through.
Moving to the South here, which again is kind of a straight line or a thin line there between the Saints at 7-2, Buccaneers 7-3, and then the Falcons are 3-6, and the Panthers 3-7. I think we have to admit that the Falcons and the Panthers are probably not going to make the playoffs.
History.
And that the Saints and Buccaneers probably will. Who do you think is going to take the division, though? Obviously, the Buccaneers, 2 of their 3 losses are against the Saints.
Right.
So they don't play the Saints anymore. Who do you think ultimately takes the division?
I don't like these questions there. Well, I think I think Drew Brees being hurt for a couple weeks is going to hurt the Saints. I know Taysom Hill will be okay, and they can lean on Jameis Winston a little bit, but you can't lean on Jameis Winston a lot. We know that. The Tampa Bay Bucks know that. He's an interception machine. No, listen. If the Saints win without Breeze, you can forget about it because I don't think when he comes back, he's going to be on a mission. He's going to be on an absolute mission. And the way the Seahawks have been playing, I know it's not the same division, but I'm just saying the way they've been playing kind of helter-skelter, if they lose a few more games, the Saints are going to end up being there in the end, I think. But don't count out Tom Brady. And I know Tom Brady fans the hatred of Tom Brady is real, but he is a great quarterback. And when he gets going, he doesn't stop. He's just a great player. We might not ever see a player like him ever again.
2 games I definitely want to see for the Buccaneers coming up here. Home to the Rams and then home to the Kansas City Chiefs. I will definitely be watching that Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game if I get the chance. But with Antonio, with a very good pass defense and overall defense.
Remember, though, Brady did play them in the Super Bowl. So he knows that defense. It's not that – it can't be that different. And they knows the coaches. So, I mean, yeah, that will be a really interesting – both those matchups. That's a great point. That's an absolutely awesome 2 matchups.
I truly think the Buccaneers, now that they have – whether he stays on the team, I don't know. But now that they have Antonio Brown, and we talked about it before the show, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Ronald Jones, and Fournette at the run game, not to mention Gronkowski, who obviously has a ton of championship rings himself. Their defense, I believe, is third total defense.
I didn't realize that. Wow.
I truly think that they may be a if not the favorite Super Bowl contender in the NFC, because my pick, the Seahawks, they're kind of showing some defensive woes a little bit, and the Rams shut them down offensively. I think everyone has shown something. It's whether or not they can get past the Saints, I guess.
I guess that's what it's going to be, yeah.
But I love the Buccaneers going forward. I think that they could potentially win a Super Bowl. And
it's a possibility.
Of course, Tom Brady wins another
Tom Brady with another Super Bowl. Yep, we all want to see that.
Let's finish it off here in what we kind of realized it would be a tough one in this NFC West, and here it sits. Cardinals 6-3, Rams 6-3, Seahawks 6-3, 49ers 4-6, maybe because they haven't been completely healthy, but they may have been at the 5-4 or 6-3 slot as well. Well, you know where I'm going, Joe. Which one stands out? Is it the same one? Now I believe we both had the Seahawks winning the division in the beginning of the year. I don't know if you remember if you had any wild cards coming out of it. I know I had the Rams coming out of it. You know the question: who's winning the division? How many teams do you think maybe make it out?
Can I delete the Niners? Can I make it easy on myself?
I think that's pretty safe to say. I'm sure they play those 3 teams. So
we tell our students at school if you definitely know the answer is wrong in a multiple choice choice test. Yeah, just out, right? Yeah, okay. So Niners, you're done. Man, I love to believe in the Rams. I love McVay. I think Jared Goff is such a good quarterback. But guess what? They're not playing home games in the playoffs all the time. So even though you're 4-0 at SoFi Center Stadium, if I got that right, the newest stadium in football other than Reliant Stadium in Las Vegas, right? Anyway, The bottom line here to me is it's a 2-horse race. And isn't it hilarious that 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL are going to complete the 2-horse race? Kyler Murray, who I now call Houdini after his crazy throw on Sunday evening, and Russell Wilson, who to me is the classiest human being. It's not even about a football player. He's the classiest person I've ever even watched play football. Great guy. Just the stories about him are unbelievable. But yeah, they got weapons. We know it. So do the Cardinals. Wow, it's tough. But I think Seattle's offense is going to be able to propel them further. And I just have I think the Cardinals are right there, but they need another weapon other than Hopkins. I know they have the running back in Drake, and I know they got Fitzgerald, but he's aging. Man, I just say the Seahawks. I love Seattle, and but I won't say that I pick them over your Packers. I think that would be another NFC clash. You really have that whole race of like Brady, Wilson, Murray, Rodgers. Does it get better than that? And sorry,
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Carson Wentz isn't in the conversation.
It's ultimately gonna come out to who wins the most games in the division, because, and I said it in the beginning of the year, they were gonna beat up on each other. They are. Now, I think I agree. I really like. Obviously, the Rams' defense is very good, but they don't have a run game. Much of a run game. No one really scares you there. I mean,
Malcolm Brown, right?
they got and they got Cooper Cup and
decent.
I'm blanking
Josh
on the
Reynolds.
slot Woods out of the slot.
Yeah, Robert Woods, yeah.
You
Josh
know,
Reynolds.
I don't think I think it could come down to there's 2 more games between the Rams and the Cardinals. Those could be huge. But and I know this strays away. I picked the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, if you recall.
I do.
Give me the Cardinals. Because they have a pretty, and it could ultimately come down to this game, another game I'm probably going to hope to watch. That is actually Thursday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
Arizona and the Seahawks. Going to be a great game.
It's going to be something.
But the Cardinals play the Patriots.
Yeah.
They play the Giants. They play the Eagles. They play the 49ers. So
that could be 4 wins.
I don't necessarily think that they are a better team than the Seahawks, but I think they do win the division because they have a easier road here, and I think the Seahawks also get in as a wild card and do a little bit of damage as a wild card.
The only thing that scares me the only thing that scares me is if Hopkins gets stopped in the game, can Kirk, Fitzgerald, Isabella, can they step up enough? Drake, we know Murray's going to be great. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. But what else has to happen? The defense, they got some good names on defense. You're right. There's going to be some key games going down the stretch now.
Well, that'll finish it off for us. Had a lot of fun talking some football here. Midseason awards, Joe. We're already past the midseason, trucking down towards the playoffs, and we'll definitely delve in deeper as we get into and towards the playoffs. But any thoughts before we sign off?
No, just so everybody is aware that we're going to do another show Friday. Today's Tuesday. We'll do a show Friday afternoon where we're going to do the NBA draft, highlight some of the players that get taken. I'm going to pay very close attention to the conferences and the college. You see the Dukes and the North Carolinas, but there's some small schools that get these kids drafted and some out of high school. It's going to be interesting to see what teams do. There was a trade earlier in the week with Chris Paul. That was a big move for the NBA fans out there. But I'm excited to watch the draft tomorrow night. I always am. It's just a fun time. And it comes to us a little later in November because of COVID. But yeah, that'll be good to talk about that. And I think we might come to you with a little hot stove after, a little MLB, if we have some time, because stuff's happening. And then Derek, we thought we'd do a show next Tuesday again, or Monday or Tuesday again next week, and we'll talk about that maybe on Friday. But no, always a pleasure. And fans, please comment, like, and all, the Spotify and Apple and all that good stuff. Please check us out because we so enjoy doing this.
And as Joe mentioned, I think, I mean, don't quote us on it every week, but we may try to start getting out two episodes a week. One will be the longer that'll be come out on Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll have a somewhat shorter one on Friday that'll be around 20 to 30 minutes. So do look for that one coming out this Friday. This one should be out actually on Wednesday. We're a day behind, but um, yes, we absolutely love giving these videos, and we love hearing from you guys. So we would love to have your email your questions in and comment and like and whatnot on through Facebook or email if you just listen to us on podcast platforms. But as Joe mentioned, Friday, look for NBA draft recap. And we're going to be talking a little Easton and Phillipsburg football that will be happening a little early this year. So look out for that for the local high school fans. As always, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us here at Timeout with Derek and Joe. Please like, comment, subscribe on your podcast platforms. This for Joe Azalina. This has been Derek and O. Take care. God bless, and stay safe.